Hi, everybody. I'm Waqas Haque. I'm a first-year oncology fellow at the University of Chicago. Welcome to our monthly episode and podcast of the Oncology Data Advisor series, where we talk about the intersection of oncology and broadly medicine with AI and technology. We're actually recording this episode just around the time of National Nurses Week, and I just looked it up. This is actually, the birthday of Florence Nightingale, May 12th. So it's a really high time to be talking about some of this work that we're doing. I'm joined today by an excellent panel of individuals who have had transformative nursing careers, both both in oncologic and non-oncologic settings, and who have also been working in different settings in IT and AI and health tech more broadly. So before I kind of go on with the questions, I would love to have sort of a brief introduction from everyone here.
My name is San. My full name is Sangeeta Agarawal. I started out actually as a computer engineer, and I worked in innovation, developing technologies that later became large products at IBM, Motorola, Google, including building video streaming on phone, which was acquired by Skype. But I was always passionate about healthcare, so went into healthcare since 2006, doing both Eastern and Western medicine, really passionate about the whole health aspect of care. I've been incorporating technology to help in day-to-day patient care, in educating and empowering my colleagues in healthcare, and then building a technology company, the world's first company doing AI symptom management in nursing. And then I'm also doing bedside. I'm a nurse practitioner doing oncology as well as a whole health approach to care. And I leverage technology for practice as well as for educating other healthcare professionals about how to apply technology in their day-to-day work.
I'm Kathleen McGrow. I'm the Chief Nursing Innovation Officer at Microsoft. My background is I'm a trauma critical care nurse. I've been in information technology for a significant period of time. Most recently, I'm focused on the workforce domain crisis and how it's impacting our clinical providers. I'm also the co-chair of the HIMSS Nursing Innovation Work Group, where we talk about artificial intelligence and how it can enable our providers. Thanks for having me.
And I am Marc Perkins-Carrillo. I am the Chief Nursing Informatics Officer for Moffitt Cancer Center, a comprehensive cancer center here in Tampa, Florida. Been in healthcare been a nurse for 30 years now. And my background is similar to Kathleen's. I'm emergency room and critical care also. And I am the president-elect of the local ANIA chapter.
Awesome. So thanks for sharing all those introductions, and really excited to see sort of the different backgrounds you all have had and how you sort of at least made the transition, or at least got involved with some of the health sort of tech side of medicine. So my first question is so I know you're still clinically active, but for everyone, how did you either make the transition from nursing to an industry role, or what kind of skills do you think transfer best from being a nurse to maybe being an executive or doing informatics work?
Sure, I can take that first. So I was literally sticking my finger in a bullet hole and running to the OR on a Friday, and then on Monday I was working for a healthcare vendor. And I did that through the education route. So I have my master's in nursing informatics. I was working at University of Maryland Shock Trauma in Baltimore, and I knew that I wanted to take care of more patients at a time. And at that time, it was pre real electronic health record implementation, but it was just starting, kind of like the butt of that. So I will say my career path was both intentional and organic. I had the opportunity to do some pretty cool and fascinating things in research with the School of Medicine because my area had a lot of grant money at the time when I worked in the trauma resuscitation unit. I think the skill set, I always say that I have a very deep clinical knowledge and I know enough information technology to be dangerous. So I know the questions to ask that can kind of keep the engineers thinking that I actually know what they're talking about, but I know how to have the seat at the table and essentially be able to articulate that. So I think critical thinking and communication are the two things I would say that are most beneficial when you're moving from the bedside. You utilize that at the bedside, you're going to use the same skill set in industry. It's just in a nuanced, a different way.
For me, I was coming from tech to healthcare because I always believed in healthcare from early on. I think for me, I would say, the most important skill is not even skill. I think it's the fact that we care. We care about our patients. We care about the problem at hand because we know it matters. And not so staying true to that, staying true to the fact that you see a problem and you believe that there is a way to solve the problem, then having that ability to say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna keep trying to figure out how do we solve that problem? Who are the people who can help me with this? Who can we talk to? Who can we engage? Roll up our sleeves and try to figure out a solution to this. And I think as nurses, we do it all the time. We do it at bedside, we do it for small problems, we do it for big problems. And I think that's the way I see the use of AI technology today for nurses as they get involved. And that's how it happened for me. What I would say is I think having the knowledge of technology, of the various tools that are out there, of AI, then you can know what you can possibly use and where you can apply it versus what is a hype or not really the appropriate solution for a particular situation. So I think so that's a way that healthcare professionals today, when they're taking care of patients or being involved in committees, they can make a real difference. They can be the entrepreneurs in their organization, in their setting. For me, that's how it started. It started with identifying problems that needed to be addressed, that were causing suffering for my patients, where I felt they could have better outcomes. And I continued to pursue them, and that led me um, to doing all kinds of things, doing research, doing technology development, becoming part of NSF Corp, building a company, educating others, starting this innovation forum. Whatever it is, it's always rooted in what do you care about, and technology is one of the tools that can help us.
And then I joined during the heyday of computerized provider order entry. I just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time. Oh wait, and what it was is I was geeky enough that I understood how the computer worked a little bit, and so all of a sudden, hey, how could you take this live and make this system work for us? And I think what you bring to that is that you got to be thinking outside the box, because EMRs or EHRs were developed as financial tools, not clinical tools. And how do you make a financial tool become clinical? And making sure that the workflows are there, and that we build these in, and that we put the clinician first in these workflows, and not have our tech friends who you have to love them, but they think about it from a different realm than the clinicians do. And why is it important to have a checkbox here versus down at the bottom of a screen or all the way back at the top? So just trying to make sure that those workflows, so thinking outside the box and bringing the clinical into the computer.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. And it's just really cool to sort of see how you all have kind of incorporated some of your backgrounds at a large cancer center or at a large tech company or as a founder. In terms of some of the health IT work that you all have been involved with, what's sort of a key leadership lesson that you've learned along the way, and how does that shape your approach to healthcare innovation?
I think for me, the key leadership lesson was I wasn't trying to be a leader. I was I was able to, I think one of the key leadership lessons I would say is thinking about patterns. Are you seeing a pattern to the problem? Does this problem keep repeating? Does this problem matter? And are you seeing that this problem has impact at a larger scale, whether that's to multiple patients or to multiple clinicians or to revenue in some way? Then that's the beginning to me. That is the beginning of a problem. That's the chaos. And then you think about, okay, as a clinician, if I had all the tools, all the resources for solving this problem, how would I solve it? As you start to brainstorm and think of solutions to that particular problem, then you can start to, first of all, believe that there is a solution, because you need to first believe there is a way to solve the problem before you can, take it on. Then you start to bring other people who know about this issue, about how they can be involved. So I think asking people, being open to asking for help, being open to rolling up your sleeves and saying, I'm gonna try it and do it because it matters, even if it's not my paid hour. um, I think showing up also by having confidence in yourself, not saying I'm just a nurse. No, we are not just a nurse. We are nurses. Nurses bring a lot of knowledge, clinical knowledge, whole health knowledge to the table. We are great at complex problem solving on the ground. So I think having that trust in yourself, and then continuing to work on it. At the end of the day, we can have a lot of ideas, but it's what do you drag to the finish line? What do you get things completed and then work through it, take it up, and then run through it and iterate through it till it gets deployed on your unit, or till it gets deployed, at a large scale, whatever, however the project is. I think those are the skills that I learned along the way. And for me, one of the biggest thing was, I was just blown away by when I asked. I got so much help, and I met such incredible people, um, where I learned so much from them, and we have done amazing things together that I never would have in my wildest dream thought possible. So I'd say show up, care, and just do it.
I think that one of the things I've most learned that is a lesson around leadership is just to be empathetic. I've always been an empathetic person, which is why I'm a nurse. That was a big reason. I always identify as a nurse when I'm talking to anyone, whether it's in my own organization or outside. So I think that is really key. And then bringing that empathy to organizations that are really trying to solve some really tough problems. And our workers, our clinicians are really crushed right now. It's very different. It's very difficult. I hear stories every day across the spectrum, regardless of what generation you are, when you're trying to do hands-on patient care. And I've also been a patient within the last recent, right? So I know how it feels to be on that spectrum of things too. So I think leadership-wise, the most important thing is just to remain empathetic, help guide the team through change. There's a lot of change that's happening now, and we're going to see a lot more change, especially with artificial intelligence and AI and the different agents and ambient. And these are not things that nurses are equipped to deal with at this point in time. And we have to make sure they have the right skill set, but we have to be empathetic about it because it's a big change for them. I'll hand it to Marc.
So I would say relationship building. So as the Chief Nursing Informatics Officer, I also have the title of Clinical Informatics Director. So I have all the aspects of the informatics, so physicians, nursing, the whole gamut of the hospital and clinics. And you can't make everyone happy, and change. The computers can only do so much, right? So there's only so many things that you can do with the system, and trying to do the least amount of damage to any one area and having that relationship with them so that you can talk about why this is necessary for one area, and while it may disrupt theirs somewhat, how we try to minimize those, and having that relationship is really key to any kind of implementation that you ever do.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing all those different insights about leadership lessons and about sort of professional advice. I'd like to kind of maybe transition to the nuts and bolts of what you all are working on, in terms of the impact that I've heard so far, about nursing, sort of being adaptable, being dependent, being empathetic. I can sort of see that impact being scaled into impact both sort of within the profession and also in healthcare more broadly. So first, I want to maybe talk about sort of changes that we might see within nursing specifically. So how do you sort of see AI impacting nursing or oncology nursing in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think we're going to see significant change in practice. We're going to have new models of care that are going to be impacted by AI. I think of AI as augmentative or assistant. I don't think it's going to take over nursing jobs, but I do think that it can maybe remove some of the manual or more mundane tasks that nurses do, the repetitive tasks that they do. I also do think that we're going to move forward in ambient, and nurses are going to essentially do narrative care, and they're going to speak their patient assessment. It'll automatically document it, and they'll just edit it if they need to. So physicians have been doing that for years. So I think it's just a matter of time till it gets to us. I think that more importantly is we need to look ahead or take a step back and look at what skilling and reskilling do nurses need in order to be successful and be able to embrace AI, not be afraid of it. So I work with organizations across the world, and there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt that nurses have around artificial intelligence. And I think the way to combat that is really through education. So how do we help them learn about it so that it's not the black box that they think it is? And how do we help them become more comfortable with it? So I think there's a lot we need to do. And I think that even starts in our universities, our education with the students. We have to start there. And in order to start there, we actually have to start with our educators, because our educators aren't even comfortable with AI. So it's difficult to say, let's help you educate the nursing students on AI when they're not even comfortable with it. So I think we have to kind of look at our organizations, associations that we work with, and see where we can best help to kind of get them ramped up.
Kathleen, that was great because it segues right into exactly what we're doing. So I actually just worked on our strategic plan. And as you know, nursing has not ran toward AI as much as the physician group. And so we are going to spend our first year really just talking about AI and what can it do? What should it do for us? And how do we use it responsibly in nursing? We are implementing a very self-contained large language model that's is proprietary to one of the vendors on this call. So we will be implementing it, Copilot, into our environment. So we'll be having Copilot chat. So everyone could actually start interacting in a safe environment with healthcare and trying to understand how you can use AI. That's step one. Our next model of that will be a chatbot that will still be based off of that large language model, and that you can ask it to go to the data lake and pull information for you, and it will have contained information inside our organization that we can then use to pursue our passion, which is preventing and curing of cancer. So I think AI is going to be very exciting. I think there's a lot of angst about it, but it is, like Kathleen said, it's our job to educate and to move people into it. And one of them already said it, is nothing should ever happen in nursing without nursing being at the table. So as we're designing these tools to be used in nursing needs to be sitting at the table to make sure that it is what we need to do our job. We don't want cast off tools. We want to make sure that it's something that we've developed and that it works in our work.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was so beautifully laid out, Kathleen, with where you started, and Marc with where you built on it. My thoughts build on that. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you're saying. I think to summarize what I understood was with Kathleen was that I think there are already some AI and tools being used when it comes to physicians, and there has been some adoption. So as nurses, it'll be good and important for nurses to be able to adopt and use those tools. So that's where the education and implementation comes in. I think Marc's point there is really key. I truly believe in this, is that if nursing is going to be using some solutions, then nurses need to be involved in it. We need to have nurses buy in terms of understanding their needs, in terms of understanding their limitations, in terms of understanding how it affects them, in terms of the additional burden does it create for them, or does it affect from a liability standpoint? Are we saying, okay, use these tools and now you need 10 minutes less to chart, but then who's liable if there are errors that were not done by the nurse, but was a misunderstanding from the technology perspective or something. So, having those nuances figured out where nurses feel safe to use the solution, I think will be very important. I think Marc was talking about that and implementation. I would build on that, and I would say I think the other key aspect is reimbursement. The solutions that come into the into the healthcare workspace are driven by reimbursement, when it comes to large scale deployment. So I think advocating for the right solutions to be reimbursed in healthcare would be important. And then educating nurses, which I think both Marc and Kathleen were talking about, educating nurses, nurse educators about technology, about AI is going to be important, so they know what is the language, what can solutions do, what can they not do. And the thing that I champion and I truly believe in is that nurses need to be at the forefront of both using the solutions and in defining what solutions are nursing solutions. Do they incorporate the values, the mission, um, the approach, the models that we have worked so hard over hundreds of years to bring into nursing, and those don't get wiped out at a systemic level because now the solutions are not incorporating those. So I think nurses need to be at the table and the ones driving solutions that are being used or apply the nursing aspect to it. So those are things that I think is important from nursing perspective.
Yeah, I definitely echo the sentiments about multi-professional, interdisciplinary collaboration, really bringing these tools to patients and to patient care, both with other providers and also with non-clinicians as well at these companies. And one term that I often hear thrown around when it comes to integrating AI with patient care is the idea of patient first. So every decision we make within AI or integrating it has to really be thinking about how it ultimately affects the patient. What are some ethical principles or considerations that you think about when implementing the AI tools, either for nurses or for patients more broadly?
I think one I touched on. So let's talk from a nursing perspective, then we'll go to patient perspective. So I think from a nursing perspective, the key thing is the solution actually helping? I have been part of pilots for many of the technologies that get implemented at the various healthcare centers, both from the side of deploying technology and on the other hand of using the technology. And sometimes what happens is that you're actually doing double work because you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do in the system, plus you're supposed to do this additional thing, or this solution is supposed to solve some problem, but you s- but there are like issues with it or whatever. So whether it's the training, whether it's how the solution is deployed, understanding what the nursing flow is and whether it's actually helping the clinician or not, or it's adding more work, is going to be important. Second, I think is does the solution help from uh, help from a clinical perspective? What I mean by that is, let's take the example um, of the text to speech software, like the automated clinical charting, right? So those tools, I actually find that it's helpful when I'm doing urgent care kind of visits, right? I'm seeing the patient in and out. I'm not going to see them on an ongoing basis as much. But if I'm doing for my cancer patient, when I'm writing the SOAP note, I'm actually building on the story of what has been going on with the patient in the last few visits, what treatments, what worked, what didn't work, how is their pancreatic cancer progressing, and why we cannot do surgery now. And there are a lot of people who are involved in reading the note of each other to understand and to move the care forward and to make these very important decisions that affect life and death. In those cases, having an AI tool automatically write the note, it may not have the nuances, and it's not fair to expect that level of nuances of being able to tell the story of what we are trying to communicate with one another. So I think there is that aspect of it. Does it rob the clinical insights that is being done right now with the manual process? Third is liability. If we are using this tool and the tool is saying something and there is transparency, let's say to the SOAP note, and the patient gets that SOAP note, now the patient thinks the provider said or did something or misunderstood something when we didn't. The note was written by the tool, and because we were moving fast from one patient to other now, because we don't need to chart manually, we become liable for that. So that those kind of things need to be, I think, understood and negotiated from a clinical perspective. From a patient perspective, does the tool really solve all the problem? Does this tool solve the problems that we solve today? Does the tool solve the problem for everyone? Like, are you taking into consideration people who have language barriers? Are you taking into consideration people who can't afford to, buy high quality foods? Are you taking into consideration people, who don't have the latest technologies or who can't afford to go to see a therapist or whatever, right? Like, are they making these assumptions? Is it actually not providing care to certain set of people or making it harder for them? Or is there bias in the tool, in how it's being used or in how the tool is making decisions? So I think those are some factors that we need to understand, because it's, whatever data is put in the system and that data comes out. So how much is that evaluated and regulated, to ensure that it is actually delivering high quality patient care that is equitable for everyone? I think those are factors to think about. What is the transparency of the algorithm for the patient who's being impacted?
So as a hyperscaler, right, Microsoft, we have a specific framework around responsible AI and our commitment to responsible AI. And it's from the whole product lifecycle, from designing to building to releasing the AI technology. And it really just boils down to, 6 core values that we have that are foundational. One is fairness. Then we have reliability, safety, privacy, security, transparency, accountability, and inclusiveness for all of our solutions that we develop that are related, that incorporate AI. And that's really our commitment to responsible AI. And I could speak to each one of those, but I'll just stop there based on time. And I'll hand it to Marc.
So since I work at a cancer center, what I'm going to say that's probably our biggest risk is, was the model trained on cancer patients? Our patient population is different than a community hospital. And when you start really seeing, we've trialed different tools, they're not all built the same, and they're built on different subsets of patients. And that's really important. We want to make sure that we're using something that is oncology based, has been trained on oncology patients, for us to be able to use, because otherwise we're not sure that the values that it's giving us is actually appropriate for our patients. So that's our biggest risk. And I think that, bias is always there, but I think that our biggest risk from an oncology standpoint is the fact that these models need to be trained on oncology specific patients.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all those answers. And just one quick last question. I know we've talked about a lot of different innovations about LLM and about, text to speech and about chat boxes. Just really quickly, what's one innovation you want to see every nurse use within the next 5 years that incorporates some kind of AI?
Well,
No
I'll
more
go first.
clicking.
I
No
was
more
gonna
clicking.
say, I totally stole that from me. I was going to say mousing and clicking. Yeah, get them off the keyboard, all that hunting and clicking. I agree, which I think leads to ambient Waqas or agentic, autonomous agents.
Okay.
I would say, I think, yeah, like less of being able to talk to the EMR, basically, to search, to type, to click, whatever, just would make it so much easier. And I think, like, yeah, if we could do agentic AI where we could schedule calls for, checking on our patients, seeing how they're doing, I think that would be so helpful. Then we're not constantly thinking at the back of our mind, like, how is that patient doing?
Well, thanks so much for everyone's time and your answers. Since this is an oncology podcast, I'm going to give a quick plug for the ONS, Oncology Nursing Society. Recently, they passed their 50th anniversary on May 1st, and they serve over, with over 35,000 active nurses and different members. And also are trying to incorporate technology through the ONS biomarker database. And San, I know you do some work as well with their innovation committee. So, thanks for sort of continuing that important work. And thanks to all our guests for joining today. I really appreciated the conversation and all the insights that you all shared.